Nice to see you again. So we're back on Biobarica Talks at the first episode of the year, and we have the pleasure of having our first guest, Dr. Randy Vawdrey. Randy is part of the team of physicians in Optimal Health Clinics. He's also leading the industry in research of neurocognitive cognitive disease, dementia, and Alzheimer. And of course, he has a lot of experience on the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and we wanted to give you a little bit of his experience and what is he's doing regarding the applications in neurology and some neurodegenerative disease. How are you, Randy? Nice to see you.
Doing great. Thank you, Fabrizio. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let's start. Can you explain a little bit how is this research regarding the those neurodegenerative disease, specifically Alzheimer, Parkinson, and MS, and among others?
Yes. So neurodegenerative disease is often lumped into one bucket. People just have cognitive decline, but the pathologies that lead to these are myriad. There's a lot of different approaches and pathologies and so forth. And I became very interested in neurological disease. When I finished graduate school, I was a provider at the local VA. And so this is where our veterans would often spend the rest of their life. Many of them have served our country and lived profitable lives, and then they end up losing their brains, losing their minds at the end of their life, and they end up in a nursing home. And for 10 years, I took care of these individuals, and I always lamented how poorly they actually responded to medicines. They didn't respond good. Medicines don't work for neurodegenerative disease. And that really kind of sunk in my brain, and thought, I've got to try to figure out how I can help people that have different forms of neurodegenerative disease. So that was kind of the way that I started my career. And I've really spent about the last 10 years digging as deep as I can in the areas of nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals and interventions like non-pharm interventions, things like audiovisual entrainment and pulsed electromagnetic therapy and red and near infrared light therapy. And that's where hyperbaric came in, because it's a non-pharmaceutical treatment, even though oxygen is considered pharmaceutical, right? It's an intervention that you would do besides taking a pill. And so each of these kind of came together and have a place in my treatment of different forms of neurodegenerative disease.
And and you said how the drugs and how it works specifically in those pathologies, but how is in your opinion, the relationship between the vascular health and those diseases that you mentioned? So there is a link that you found on your years in that experience?
Yes, whenever you're talking about any form of neurodegenerative disease, question number one has to be what's going on with vascular support. And it seems like in medicine we just think about stroke, or we think about TIA, right? People are having silent TIAs. But the reality is you can take a very good history and you can start pinning down people that have vascular problems. Say, for example, a guy in their 50s that has erectile dysfunction has a vascular problem downstairs. He also has a vascular problem upstairs, guaranteed. People who have phenomenon like Raynaud's phenomenon, where they just get vascular spasms in their fingers or their toes. Those would be examples of a vascular disorder that I think can be contributory to neurological disorders. So that gets very broad, and a good historian that's starting to ask the type of questions: have you ever had a blood clot? Do you have COVID long hauler syndrome, erectile dysfunction, Raynaud's, atrial fib? Do you have vascular disease like peripheral artery disease? Have you ever had a head injury, right? Do you have sleep apnea? Because even though that's not vascular, it compromises oxygen delivery to the brain. And so I very much view obstructive sleep apnea as a low-grade concussion every night somebody goes to bed. And so vascular is the top of the pyramid, man. You got to fix vascular if you're going to fix anything.
And you just explained how everything is connected systemically, and it's related also about the systemic inflammation, right? So and in that specific side of the or approach, therapeutic approach, you have your own knowledge and your own opinion regarding the neuroinflammation that could differ, for example, with Dr. Brenso's three-code approach, or Dr. Parisian, or Dr. Gardens, for example, that explained the TBI approach. So what is it your exactly approach, and is that different between what they said regarding neuroinflammation?
Yeah, great question. Listen, I am a huge fan of Dr. Bredesen. You could say I'm a disciple, if you will. Dr. Bredesen is remarkable, and he really was the first neurologist that I have studied with that put together a format to looking at risk factors for neurodegenerative disease. And he kind of explains it like a roof that has 36 holes. If your roof is filled with holes and you go plug one hole with a pharmaceutical, it doesn't do anything for the integrity of the roof. It's still leaking like crazy. So I've really appreciated his approach to neurodegenerative disease. But I think there's other elements out there that contribute to that. So there are other specialists like Francisco Gonzalez Lima has talked a lot about red and near infrared light and mitochondrial disorders.
We love mitochondria.
Yeah, do you know him?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know, and we love mitochondria in general. We
yeah.
I mean, we always, in all my interviews in Biobarica Talks, I put like it's for us, it's the main character for our therapy. So everything it's related to how the metabolism in mitochondria and how they like boosting their improvement can help exactly different pathologies and condition, exactly some related to inflammation for sure. So and going exactly through specific protocols, Randy, what about the protocols related to dementia, that the theory that you have and you are implementing on your patients? So you have something to say about this?
Yeah, so I put together, it's called the enhanced protocol.
Yeah.
And the enhanced protocol is, it's my approach of how do I approach neurodegenerative disease. And it borrows from, or it takes from other industry experts. So where Dr. Bredesen has the RECODE protocol, and he has, these are the labs that you do, and these are the interventions and the foci that you would do. Mark Gordon he originally was out of California, now out of Texas. He started a company called TBI Help Now, and his whole focus was post-traumatic brain injury. And what do you do? And there's a big focus on hormone optimization and the use of antioxidants. Gonzalez Lima talks a lot about mitochondrial dysfunction and the use of methylene blue and red and near infrared light therapy. And Peter Attia talks a lot about health span, not just lifespan. And what do we do to improve health span? Dr. Cunane out of Canada talks about ketogenic diets and their impact for neurodegenerative diseases. Paul Harch has talked a lot about hyperbaric medicine and its treatment of neurodegenerative diseases. So there are industry experts, and each of them have a focus. And my focus has not been only do Paul Harch style or only do Dr. Bredesen style, but take what is the good that everyone has and pull it together. And then can I put together a group of skilled clinicians that gather history and do the testing and can dial in and say, wow, this particular approach is going to make the biggest difference for you. Let's walk down this pathway together for the next couple of months.
And you just gave me the space to ask my favorite questions regarding this protocol. So what is exactly the role of the hyperbaric oxygen therapy? I mean, the hyperoxia in this enhanced protocol. You just mentioned Dr. Paul Harsh that works for years as a pioneer on implementing the hyperbaric oxygen in those kind of patients. So how do you mix? I know you have a very comprehensive approach on your protocol, and of course the oxygen can just help on each part of the syndrome or the condition that you just mentioned. So what is the role of is the oxygen a main character on this enhanced protocol?
Absolutely. It is so stinking important. And so we mentioned in the very beginning that vascular support to the squash between your ears is at the top. It's the pinnacle of importance, right? But you have to also think of the supportive intervention. So let's take a diabetic non-healing wound. This is very common in the hyperbaric world, right?
Yeah.
We take a diabetic as a non-healing wound. Let's start doing hyperbaric therapy. At the same time you're doing the therapy, you've got to help that diabetic control their blood sugars, because otherwise you're kind of beating yourself against the wall.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense for someone to get in a hyperbaric chamber every day with a blood sugar of 450. That's insanity, right? And so what I try to do is say, look, hyperbaric is so important, whether you've had a traumatic brain injury or you've got Alzheimer's disease, senility in your 70s or 80s. But at the same time that we engage hyperbaric, we better control your blood sugar. You've got to stop drinking alcohol. We would be better we would have more success in our hyperbaric intervention if we got you into a mild ketogenic diet. If we replace your vitamin B12 and your vitamin D up to thresholds of health and success, if we optimized your hormones. So to me, hyperbaric is so valuable. And in our office, we have exercise with oxygen too, right? Because exercise is so important. So by combining those interventions with the other interventions, we're watching people have tremendous success. I've seen things that other doctors would say, no, you're exaggerating or you're inflating. I watched an 84-year-old woman lose her driver's license 5 years ago because she had 3 accidents in 1 year, and the transportation department took away her driver's license. And she started participating in our protocol. And after about 6 months, passed all of the neurological tests and all of the driving tests to get her driver's license back. And she's 84.
Yeah.
I will tell you up front, I was hesitant to authorize that because I'm not sure that all 84-year-olds should be driving.
Yeah.
But it was undeniable, the changes that she made, the improvements in her neurological status. And so you started your question to say, where does hyperbaric fit? In my opinion, almost everybody needs it, because from a vascular standpoint, they already have an inflammatory response in their brain and they need that oxygen support. But while we're doing that oxygen support, there is a major effort to try to optimize all of these other parameters. And in my experience, everything becomes that much better because of the hyperbaric.
Amazing, Randy. And it's also incredible how everything goes directly to quality of life. So just mentioned the example of this senior lady, and I just think it's health, because even we put the example of the driver license, but it's health. That's health, definitely. So, and I don't know, I've already passed more than 15 minutes. I can't believe it. So I have to make my last question, which is the same question that I'm doing, making to the last guest. So if you have the chance to tell a colleague something, or they're not decided to get to implement the hyperbaric oxygen therapy on their service, what would you say to this doctor, this colleague, this professional that is not decided or not totally decided to implement or get into the hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Well, my question would be, what are you doing that's better? What do you have that would exceed the outcomes that you would get from hyperbaric oxygen therapy? And from a neurological standpoint, I am very familiar with I'm not a know-it-all. I don't know everything that's out there, but I have a comfort level in the arena of what is offered and what works. And I can tell you from experience and from a position of taking care of thousands of people with different forms of neurodegenerative disease, hyperbaric should be at the top of the list for helping people recover from any type of brain injury or cognitive decline, brain fog, even mental health disorders. I think there's a place for it. So
great. Well, doctor, I could be like talking to you like for hours, but we have to finish here. We probably see you in some next episode or different events that we have. I have to thank you again for your accepting the invitation, for your sharing your experience and your knowledge. It was a real pleasure for us having you here. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah.
And you guys, thank you so much for seeing us, for start watching us from the beginning, and now still being part of this platform of Biobarica Talks. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.